Welcome to the GTN show. This week, a look at some new time trial tech from stage 5 of the Tour de France. And Heather was at the Outlaw race in Holkam this past weekend.
We also have some controversy as Fina ban afro swim caps from competition. I know, right? Also, more teams are finalised and selected ahead of the Olympic Games, which are creeping ever nearer. All right, let's kick things off by taking a look through social media and some of the things that have stood out to us. So one of which is from Tom Davis, who's a UK pro athlete. He was taking part in Ironman UK this weekend, and he's a real upcoming talent. Now, unfortunately, well, he started out very well, led out the swim, but very soon into the race, he hit a pothole on a descent, and it seems like his shifter came loose somehow from the bars, and he hung onto the bike for about a few hundred meters before ploughing into a fence. And, well, look at the size of his knee.
Yeah.
It looks bad, doesn't it?
As he says in that post, less than ideal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, had to pull out because of it.
This also doesn't come long after a little bit of a spill in Challenge Gran Canaria, which we also showed a few weeks back when he slid out on a corner. So, yeah, hope he recovers okay.
And doesn't make this a habit. Speaking of less than ideal, how's this from Matt Troutman? He apparently had a bit of a problem with his aerobars, hacked the repair using fiberglass shortly before the race. He says, happy to have made it around the course. We're also happy you made it around the course with that, Matt. We'd hate to think what might have happened if it didn't make it around the course descending the Mirador.
I'm also just impressed that he managed to find some carbon repair whilst he's in Lanzarote. I mean, yeah. It's not exactly a place that's known for having a load of resource like that. So,
well, he did make it around the course. He actually finished third, as we'll see later in our race news.
Absolutely amazing. Next one, I just found this post phenomenal and amazing. Sifan Hanssan, who is the Dutch middle and long distance runner, in fact, in 2019 at the World Championships, took gold in the 1500 metre and the 10,000, making her the first male or female athlete to have done that in one single World Championships. However, someone posted up this schedule that she could potentially end up doing at the Olympic Games this year. It's 6 races within 9 days. That would include the 5,000 heats and finals, potentially the 1,500 heat semis and finals, and the 10K with that. So that is an insane schedule, and assuming it all went to plan.
It is insane. Can you tell we're getting excited about the Olympics?
Yeah, no.
More and more of our social media is geared toward the Olympics.
Speaking
of which, last week we posted the photo with Gustav Iden showing some short, stubby tri-bars, but they were a bit blurred out and you couldn't tell what they were. Well, he's since revealed what they are or what they look like, and a bit more of his white tri-suit, which we probably didn't need to see more of. They look like speed bar-esque bars, but it seems they've been a bit crafty with the rules because their elbows are going into short ITU style aerobars, but their hands are dangling off the front, so they can get into a slightly more aerodynamic position, which is interesting. I hope it gives them a bit more control and not less control.
Wow. Talking of which, I actually reached out to Gustav because I was so intrigued. So here's what he had to say. He said, they're a collaboration between the national team and Dutch company Speedco. We had the idea of making these new kinds of aero bars that are safer for cornering in and using in heavy crosswinds and being aero at the same time. I mean, it's clever. I mean, they come up, they look more aerodynamic, and I know that he uses that sort of position on his 70.3 like long distance bike. I guess for someone like Gustav, someone that tends to struggle to make the front pack, but he's not far off, this could be kind of their weapon for him to potentially bridge up solo or a Norwegian duo. You never know.
Well, we'll see what happens. We just want to see an exciting race, so hopefully he's there on the run. On with the tri news for this week. The PTO has released their first episode of Beyond Human documentary, which everyone's been waiting for. It is currently available on their website if you're registered. If you're not registered, go ahead and get registered. It's easy to sign up for. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait a little while before you can get your hands on that video, which apparently is very well worth looking at.
I like an exclusive.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, last week, Fina, the World Water Sports governing body, announced that they would be banning afro swim caps from competition. They stated they're unsuitable because they don't follow the natural form of the head. Now, understandably, there's been a huge backlash from this decision, including Sport England stating swimming hats designed for afro hair can reduce barriers to sport for underrepresented groups, including black people. And this also came in the same week that we were excitedly talking about Alice Deering, the first black woman to represent Great Britain in the Olympic Games for swimming, and she's also been quite vocal about this and her disapproval of the decision. As such, Fina now has come back saying they're reviewing the situation regarding the products, and in a statement it said it understood the importance of inclusivity and representation. Good, hopefully.
As you would hope. More Olympic controversy as more teams are announced for the Olympic Triathlon Games at the end of the month. Finally, we get close to the final start list. New Zealand announced their team, and people were not happy. So they've announced Hayden Wild and Taylor Reid on the men's side, with Nicole van der Kay and Ainsley Thorpe on the women's side. But that leaves out Sam Ward, and Sam Ward is ranked higher than Taylor Reid. Now, the New Zealand selectors' justification for this was that they believe that Taylor Reid is a better prospect for the mixed relay, which obviously all four of the athletes that go to the Olympics will have to compete in, because you have to have competed in the individual triathlon event to be selected for the mixed relay team. Obviously, Sam Ward's not very happy, nor are some of his supporters, as you would imagine. What else is he supposed to do other than qualify higher than his countrymen?
I mean, it's so hard. I mean, the Olympic Games always throws up some controversy, but now with the inclusion of the mixed team relay, it's just thrown this whole curveball into it.
It's thrown a curveball at the selectors, really. I mean, they've got to pick someone who's really good at Olympic distance and at the same time is really good at this super sprint distance. And there are people who just aren't good at both of those, so they've got to pick one or the other. It's a really difficult situation. We'll see how it plays out, but maybe the solution is to have more slots for people just doing the mixed relay.
Well, following on, we have the Australian team finally announced.
Finally.
Also a bit of controversy there, unfortunately. It's the only team to have a full 3 male, 3 female. We already had Ashley Gentle and Jake Birtwhistle selected, but going with them, we now have Aaron Royal, Matt Hauser, Jazz Hedgeland, and Emma Jeffcoat. Controversy there, as also leaving out Van Corderen, who was another Olympic hopeful and prospect. So, hey.
And finally, in Tri News, Ironman has announced a new event, Ironman 70.3 in Israel in November. I'm not sure how many competitors they're going to get for that one, but if you're interested, entries are now open. On to the tech news, and starting with this interesting saddle from Bisaddle. It's basically a triathlon road bike saddle that's adjustable. So you do away with the days of trying 17 different saddles at your bike shop. You can put this one on and you can adjust it once it's on your bike. You can move it in and out and forward and back, I suppose. Basically, it's a whole bunch of saddles in one, and you can find the one that fits you perfectly. I like the idea.
It's quite cool. I guess, as the name suggests, it is a bi-saddle, 2 halves to it. You move. It's actually the same saddle that Iron Cowboy James Lawrence used for his 101 Ironman.
So clearly it works.
Yeah, he said he didn't have any saddle sores of note, so pretty good test of it, I'd say. Moving on, and we did get quite excited about the Tour de France
As we do every year.
Stage 5 time trial. So we now have a bunch of photos to just scroll through now. So first off, let's look at helmets. So we have the new Ecoy helmet, and I don't know if you say it as Veloce or Veloce or I don't know, but it's a nice looking helmet. It's very much like the old helmet, but it almost looks a bit like the Wasp, the Laser Wasp combined with their old, I don't know, it's very
We'll
nice.
definitely see that on ahead of future athletes. Patrick Lange is sponsored by Ecoy, so he'll be wearing it, no doubt, if he's not already. He probably already is.
Probably is, yeah, you'd hope so. Next helmet actually is a Canyon Aero helmet. Well, it's not really, it's an Abbas helmet, but very much Canyon branded. So it's on the head of the Alpecin Fenix team. But yeah, it looks also like a very aero helmet with a lot of ventilation, so another one we might see.
Maybe a bit hot around the ears though.
It looks tight, doesn't it? It looks very slick, but imagine that pushing on your ears for 180k.
Ooh, yeah. Another interesting thing we spotted, Sonny Colbrelli with his raw carbon Merida Time Warp TT. He opted to not have the paint on it, I suppose, to save a few grams. Funnily though, when we actually saw photos of him riding, he was riding a fully painted one. So I'm not sure why this one was even in the stable.
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly hilly course, was it? So I'm not sure you needed a ton of weight saving. Anyway, also, in case you missed it, there was a lot of talk around wheels at, not just for the Tour de France, but for the time trial stage specifically. Ineos decided to use non-sponsor wheels, as they have done before, and they typically have gone for the Princeton Carbon Work wheels. Now, they used the Princeton Carbon Works disc wheel on the rear, and some of them used the Princeton Carbon Works front wheel, whilst others used the Aero Coach front wheel. Now, it wasn't just them, because Matthew van der Poel also seemed to jump on the bandwagon there. He very last minute had a set of Princeton Carbon Work wheels sent over along with an Aero Coach front wheel. So he essentially was set up in the same way.
When you say sent over, someone drove 900 kilometers from Andorra at the behest of Princeton Carbon Works, because obviously it's in their interest to get Matthew van der Poel on their wheels, and they picked them up from none other than Cam Worth.
Well, yeah, rumour has it.
Team Ineos rider, although he says he had no idea that Princeton Carbon Works were going to give them to Matthew van der Poel when they took him from his home. So interesting though, these stories that come out of the Tour de France. Were they fast enough to justify all of that? Don't know.
Well, I don't know, but you'd imagine Ineos aren't going to scrimp on their aero testing. So if they think they're good enough, I'd imagine most people will go, all right, if they're good enough for you guys, I'm going to give them
Matthew van der Poel obviously thinks that. So
yeah.
He raced him.
Yeah, and I've got to say, a big, thumbs up and well done to Aero Coach for a relatively small company and wheel company to have the best teams in the world trying to use their wheels.
Well, everyone knows their name now.
Exactly.
Moving on, Astana had this white disc wheel on their bike. No idea whether white is faster than black. First time I've seen a white disc wheel. Maybe it is faster. You think white's faster?
Oh, white does look faster.
It looks cool anyway.
Yeah, if it's good enough for the Norwegian team for Tokyo and Jan Frodeno for the Olympics. Also, we've got this Fulcrum disc wheel with tubeless compatibility, which is, Fulcrum actually used to be a very big wheel brand, in case you haven't heard of it before, and it used to be very popular in triathlon, so it looks like we're seeing a bit of a comeback from them. And
then, of course, on the tech side, as you would expect, everyone's riding 3D custom printed carbon aerobars and aerobar extensions, and there were a whole lot of them. We just did a little thing on Gustav Iden's bike. Well, the Tour de France is not far behind on that front. Everyone seems to have those. Jumbo Visma seem to have these custom made ones from Vision. Israel Startup Nation using the Watch Shop bars, also 3D printed, we believe. And Team Bike Exchange, Bianchi Aquila, using another set of Vision bars that fit their bikes.
Yeah, interesting. Vision almost seemed to have 2 or 3 different bars at the Tour de France this year. So Team Bike Exchange Bianca Aquila, which is a ridiculous name, have this kind of scoop on the bars almost to like slot the hands into, which is quite interesting. Whereas the others we're seeing are more of a straight profile. But as you were talking there, we've got Jumbo Visma using almost like a central single pole coming up into the bars from the P5. And then we've got Bahrain Merida with 2 coming up. So they've obviously gone to the extent of developing different bars for different bikes, which is really interesting. So yeah, moving on. Fancy getting rid of your front mech and chain rings for that matter, or at least one of your chain rings for that matter.
Everybody does. That's why they all go in one bar.
Well, exactly, but still having 22 gears. Well, welcome Classified Power Shift Hub. Now this hub has an integrated 2-speed internal planetary gear, so it allows you to change gear at the hub, essentially mimicking the gear change between chain rings. So you can get rid of one of your chain rings. I hope that makes sense.
Not to me, I don't know what a planetary gear is, but if it works when you turn the pedals, it sounds brilliant, and you can get rid of that front derailleur.
Essentially, you have a 1x22 gear system. You have one chainring up front, but although there are only 11 cogs at the back, you actually have 22 because you have almost like an internal second hub, I guess is the best way to explain it. So it allows you to get rid of one of those chain rings and crucially also get rid of that front mech, which is good aerodynamically. It also allows you to improve chain line efficiency, and also it's very, very fast at changing between those gears. So it's much quicker than should you be shifting between chain rings. So something we could, for us geeky aero nerds in triathlon, this could be something quite interesting to keep an eye on.
Interesting indeed. Finally, on the tech side, we did a feature on the new Cloud Boom Echo a couple weeks ago, and we're still giving one away. Competition closes Monday at 10 a.m, so get your entries in so you can win a pair of those fast new shoes.
We're now moving on to the racing roundup results, and we had a really exciting weekend of racing. We had quite a lot going on in the UK in itself. So first of all, we had the Holkam race, or Outlaw Holkam, which was supported by the PTO. In fact, our very own Heather was there for us.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to come here to Holkam for the PTO supported Outlaw Half, and it was a pretty early start on the Sunday morning, but it's a gorgeous place to spend your weekend. And the men's race set off with a soon forming group of 3, including James Teagle and Kieran Linders. Now, out onto the bike though, James Teagle really did put his stamp down. He said that he was here to win this event, and yeah, he led after the swim with a strong bike, strong run. Kieran Linders finishing over 3.5 minutes behind, and Sam Wade with a strong bike and run to finish the podium in 3rd place. The women's race was very much billed as a 2-horse race between Ruth Arstle and local athlete Kim Morrison. And Kim had the stronger swim as expected, but Ruth very much improved on her swim today, wasn't that far off the pace, and soon closed that gap on the bike. And those two basically rode together. They came into transition just seconds apart, Ruth slightly ahead. But actually, I was in transition watching. Ruth had the far quicker transition and got out onto the run and extended a gap. And she had a really strong run and actually put 12 minutes into Kim to take the win in an incredibly convincing style. Kim Morrison finishing 2nd, and it was a strong performance by Claire Weller as the 3rd place pro female. Thanks for that, Heather. Also in the UK, Ironman UK happened this week, and it was British weather for it, but wet and rainy out there by the looks of things. Joe Skipper took the win. He was 14 minutes behind Sam Ledlow from France getting off the bike, but then put in an epic 2-hour 41 run, especially on that course. It's really impressive. He probably didn't need to though. He won by 9 minutes. He could have run a little bit slower.
Well, he's made people pay attention to him. That's for sure. Yeah, it was a very impressive run anyway, and a well-deserved win. Sam Ledlow, like I said, 2nd. Leon Chevalier from France was 3rd. Unfortunately, in that race, as we saw earlier, Tom Davis crashed out, hitting a pothole, and also, as he ran out of T2, Tim Don took a nasty tumble, which saw him trying to walk his way in with a very sore hip and knee. Unfortunately, the British weather with the rain and cold got the better of him, so he had to pull out with hypothermia. Not a good day for Tim Don. I think, sensible decision, whether it was hypothermia or just, I think 35k of walking. So no, it's not, when you've got friggin', especially when you've really got a bad hip. Anyway, hopefully you come back stronger next time. On the women's side, Katrina Matthews won with Nikki Bartlett 3rd, and Chantal Cummings rounding out the podium. Yeah, also a big shout out, Leon Chevalier, he's actually a local lad to here. First Ironman, debut Ironman, 3rd place, and got the Kona slot. Yeah, congrats. Yeah, well done to him, good work. Also moving on, we had Ironman Lanzarote this weekend, which is also an infamously hard course. That was won by Andy Bucherer, Boris Stein in 2nd, and Matt Troutman, as we discussed earlier, in 3rd with a dodgy handlebar. The women's side, we had Manon Genet actually leading a majority of the race and then pulling out on the run, leaving it open to Michelle Vesterby to take the win, just ahead of Laura Siddall, who was less than a minute behind. So just breathing down, and I think literally chewing away at her advantage. And then Justin Mathieu in 3rd. Also this past weekend, a new 70.3 Andorra. Gun to tape victory there for Australian Ellie Salthouse. She was not threatened in any of the legs. Svenja Thos from Germany coming 2nd, and Emma Bellum from Switzerland in 3rd. On the men's side, Cameron Worth did what he does and biked really hard, overcame a 3-minute deficit coming out the water to lead off the bike with a 2-minute lead, but his run legs weren't really up to holding on to that position, so he slipped to 3rd. Clement Mignon from France winning, Michele Sarzilla from Italy with a very impressive 1:11 half marathon running up to 2nd, and like I said, Cameron Worth rounding out the podium there. I mean, it's great to see Cam doing well, but I'm also quite pleased to see that he hasn't just jumped straight back in and started winning races. I mean, I think it would just be a little bit insulting to all of us that have been working hard on our running.
Exactly, that his run is not quite there after spending all his time as a pro cyclist.
Also, we had 70.3 Les Sables d'Olonne, which is a tough course actually, and a bit of running on the sand. We had Mika Noot, who is 20 years old, and this is his debut 70.3, took the win there ahead of none other than Rudy von Berg, and we had Van Jarich in third. On the women's side, also a German, Anna Reichmann, taking the win there, with Julie Lamello in second and Charlene Clavel in third.
Well, after all the racing we've had in the last month, surprisingly, there's not much on the calendar for the rest of July. There's 70.3 Ecuador coming up this weekend, and then on the 25th of July, Ironman Lake Placid, and that's about it for the pro races. Of course, the big one is at the end of the month with the Olympics coming up. The men's race on the 26th of July, women's on the 27th, and of course the mixed relay on the last day of July, on the 31st of July. So all eyes on the Olympics this month, as it should be.
Oh yeah, and the Jan v Lionel race on the 18th.
Is that a race? Is that going to be a race?
Should be a race, might be. I don't know. Is it going to be a race?
Well, it'll be an exhibition if nothing else.
All right, moving on, and before we take a look through all the great things that you've been up to, Sam Holness, aka Super Sam, who wants to become the first autistic professional triathlete, was actually racing at Outlaw Holkam this weekend, and Heather actually got the opportunity to catch up with him and his dad.
Oh, well, Sam, thank you very much for joining me ahead of your race tomorrow. What are your hopes for your race tomorrow morning? What do you want to finish your half Ironman?
I hope to finish it in sub 4 hours 30 minutes.
And that's going to be a big personal best for you because your fastest time is 6:15, is that right?
Yeah.
So you're looking for a big improvement.
Yeah.
Great. And how long have you been doing triathlon?
I've been doing since 5 years.
5 years. And you say the swimming is your favourite?
I did, yes.
Yeah, and what is your least favourite?
Oh, it's a cycle.
Why is that?
Hardest part is the only thing is the knee. I think I found the knees part of the hardest.
Okay.
And so the worst part is I tend to get a stomach bloat.
From the nutrition?
Yeah.
Okay. And your t-shirt says, autism is my superpower. What do you want to tell people that are watching about autism?
Says that anybody with autism can participate in sport. With this, want to be the first professional track driver with autism, and to help improve the awareness about autism.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing a great job. I mean, wearing that t-shirt alone is doing a great job, and seeing you racing, and I gather you want to race in an Ironman next year.
Definitely.
Do you have an Ironman in mind that you want to enter?
Hopefully in Kona, Hawaii.
Wow, well, that's some pretty big aims. That's a great race to target.
Yeah, hopefully the game invitation 2022.
Well, Tony, thanks for joining me. I obviously know that for Sam to sit there and talk to me right then was quite a challenge. But how does autism affect him in triathlon, and what are the biggest challenges that autism poses to being a triathlete?
I think the good thing about triathlons and sport is because it's structured. Right, so he knows he needs to swim, bike, run.
Yeah.
And so he just does that, meticulously.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is mechanical. So if you had a mechanical today, a big mechanical, you probably won't cope.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things we're working on. Mm-hmm. Aside from that, so there's no fear of the water. He swims well. Bike, we need to get faster. He likes monitoring what he's doing as well. So his watch is his best friend.
Right.
His Garmin 945 is his best friend. And he just loves the numbers.
Yeah.
So aside from that, everything else is cool. It's more the mechanicals of the bike.
Yeah. And what does triathlon, flip it on its head, and how does triathlon help Sam with his autism?
Confidence, self-esteem, communication skills. He's a bright guy, but in terms of meeting people. Even today when we spoke, we talked about he's meeting somebody new, and you know, panic. So the challenge he's have is his words get stuck in his chest. So, but that's what it's helped him to do. So all of this sort of stuff we're doing here today, and triathlons have helped him enormously.
And what, as a parent to an autistic child, what could you tell our viewers and tell me that whether someone watching it is autistic themselves or they know someone who's autistic, are there any sort of methods that you've learned between, you know, working with Sam to help overcome autism or to break those barriers down into triathlon?
Yeah, I think, so Sam has had lots of coaches before, and every coach knows communication is paramount, but there are a lot of coaches who speak too quickly or don't take the patience. I think the biggest challenge I've seen is talent spotting, because there are a lot of autistic athletes out there who I know who are great runners, and because they've never been able to have that banter with the coach, they don't get spotted in school and all that sort. So it's about spotting the talent and using it quite early on.
Yeah, so I guess that's almost to a view for coaches and for parents to...
And for parents as well. So it doesn't matter what you're in, it's about you spot the talent, you nurture it, you grow it. And we spotted Sam late, don't misunderstand me, but once you find it out, you're thinking, why didn't I see this earlier?
But why triathlon for Sam?
Okay, so Sam went to St Mary's University where Mo Farah went, and he did sports science.
I was at Brunel, so around the corner,
He did around Brunel,
but obviously a bit before Sam.
So he did a sports science degree there. He's done well, he got 2-1, so he's bright like that. But then when he finished, we thought, what could he do? And he could do IT if he wanted to, but he wasn't interested. And I think for graduates, it's only 7% of graduates with autism have a full-time job.
Right.
So
that's mad, isn't it?
So they don't get employed. And then we thought, what can we do? And we knew he liked swimming and he was doing some triathlons before. And we went to Qashqai. And after Qashqai, he had this bloating. And we said, do you want to do it again? He said, yes. Do you like it? Yes. And we thought, you know what? Just go for it. Amazing. And then we just thought, I think a year or so ago before the COVID, we thought, do we just do it as a, bucket list? Travel around the world and stuff. And then we thought, if you're going to do it, do the best you can. Because that's just how we are as a family. And we thought, right, that's it. You're going to go for it. And that's what we're doing. So he's 28. We know some of the top pros are in the late 30s. He's got time.
Exactly. Well, exciting times ahead, and you guys as a team, as a family, are doing some great stuff. So we look forward to following your future progress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on with some of the stuff that you guys have sent us on our uploader. Feel free to upload your own stuff. Benedict Jose sent us this picture of his pain cave from the Philippines. His pain cave set up with a smart treadmill, time trial bike on the Wahoo Kicker, and real-time immersive lighting technology to make Zwifting and indoor training feel 4D. I'm not entirely sure what that is. It does look pretty cool though.
I think it just sort of like changes with the music and stuff. I don't know.
We'll have to get some and see.
Yeah, it looks cool, whatever.
It does.
It's something really cool. I think Lucy Charles and Emma Pallant.
Oh, maybe that's what they've got in theirs.
They're doing all right with it. Next one from Albert, also on a ride out in Thailand. He says he's been enjoying his first road ride bike ever, second-hand bike, while getting ready to do his first 3 triathlons this year.
Yeah, he says riding in Thailand is always awesome and hot. Having done many training camps there over the years, I can confirm it is pretty awesome riding in Thailand, and it is always hot. Very, very, very hot.
Well, as James said, do make sure you keep sending in your photos and videos. You can use the photo uploader. Links on screen right now or in the description just down below.
On to our caption competition. Last week we had this image of someone jumping into the water with their hand over their eyes. Couple of you said the same thing. Oh no, I forgot to turn off the hob, or did I remember to turn the hob off?
We also had a few of you saying similar here. Gustavo Munzo, oh my God, the guy with the sign is back. Jeremy Mill, oh no, the sign guy is back. And Martin Maguire, it's the man from last week and he's lost his sign.
All referencing last week's caption competition, of course. But I think our winner for this week, Alexandre Silvestre with these are not VR goggles, I'm in a real race this time, which obviously referencing the pandemic and all of us doing all our triathlons in virtual reality for the last year. Congratulations, Alexandra. Send us your details and we'll send out a cap to you.
But moving on for this week's Caption Comp photo, and I think this is from Le Sable d'Olonne, and it's just a lone bike in transition.
Oh, so my caption, I'll start. Did I take a wrong turn? How come I'm the only bike here?
Or has anyone seen Bib 101? Did anyone check the swim?
Ooh,
Yeah, maybe
sinister. That's a bit sinister.
Right.
You can do
guys
better
should
than that.
Well, that is it for the show this week. We have a ton coming up on the channel. We have my Paddy Buckley ultra marathon attempt. We're doing a bit of a debrief. Yes, you can see how that one unfolded. We also have an anti-aero challenge where we really kind of stitch you up, don't we, James?
You do, again.
And also we have a marathon training where James and myself are going to be training for a pretty big marathon in the near future. So yeah, stay tuned for that one.
And in our GTN shop, we have new shirts as modeled by Mark and new sweatshirts as modeled by me in blue, grey or black. So head over to the GTN shop and get yours before they're all sold out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to watch some more now, try CrossFit versus Triathlete, which Heather did last week.